Hey guys, let's see. Okay, sorry about that. So if you are watching the replay to this, you can skip past because I want everybody to introduce themselves. So if you were watching the second, okay. I'm listening to myself talk, which is weird. Okay, so go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat box. You should see it to the right of your screen. And I'll get started shortly. I just want to give people time to get on. Let's see if the chat box is working, guys. Chat box is up. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself for those of you that have come from other places and other groups and such and such. I am Shannon Davis. I am an attorney in Tennessee, which brings me to my little caveat. Although I am an attorney, I'm a Tennessee attorney. I am licensed in Tennessee. This webinar does not create an attorney-client relationship. This is just general information. So I just want to get that out there. Now to the rest of my introduction. I started Brylet in around March 2017. And Brylet basically is digital business, and it focuses really on digital business law. It is really aimed at online entrepreneurs / people that run blogs and stuff like that. And I actually practice digital business law as well, which really covers contracts, trademarks, copyrights, on and on and on. And I asked you actually to do some homework. Now, if you're watching the replay, obviously I can't answer live, but you can pop into my Facebook group, which I will add the link. And that is where I usually hang out. So if you want to go ahead over there and ask some quick questions, feel free. And like I said, I'm going to add that link right now. Doop, doop, doop. So if you're watching this, you kind of know what's going on. All right, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So this webinar is all about, could your customer sue you? And if you're watching this, it probably really raised some questions in your mind. Like, oh, crap, could my customer actually sue you or sue me? So I want to run through a couple of topics. And these are going to be divided in two different sections because obviously as online business people, a lot of us have digital products, and then quite a few also have physical products. So those two are different when you look at the law. And you actually need to know each state has their own rules on what a product or a good is. And you need to know the difference because in some instances, your product, even if it's a digital product, will require all these things when we go over the regular products. And sometimes it won't, just depending on your state, depending on how they define everything. So let's start with digital products because a good many of us actually do have digital products. So if you're selling a digital product, one thing you need to know is, do you have a terms of use, a contract, or anything like that? If somebody goes to your website and says, I want this e-course, what happens when they do that? So what you really want to focus on is if you don't have that, you need to get that in place. And the reasons why is we'll go through that and you'll understand why. You're going to need a refund policy. And because they're digital products, you can't really physically take a product back usually. If you send a downloadable or an ebook, they've downloaded the computer, they already have it. So you need to have a strong refund policy in that says, okay, this is what happens if you're not happy with your product. You may not get any money back since I can't get the physical product back, but you will have store credit. Store credit. Now, it doesn't have to be those exact things, but it's something along those lines. So you definitely need to have a refund policy. And the reason you need a refund policy is because the customer could sue you. Now, another way that a customer could potentially sue you are your liability issues. If you send an ebook that says, hey, I'm going to make your life a billion times easier. If you follow this book, your life will be, you'll be a millionaire tomorrow. Obviously, this is a big, exaggerated example, but that could get your butt in trouble, especially if you don't have some type of liability type clause in those terms of use that we talk about. Because if you're saying this is going to happen and tomorrow you will have $1 million if you follow this thing, well, obviously, if tomorrow they haven't made $1 million and they followed it to a T, then they're like, well, you're going to give me my $1 million one way or the other, and they sue you. So within your contract and things like that, terms of use, you need to make sure that you have a liability clause that says, like, I am not liable for the outcome. You were taking this at your own risk. This is puffery, things like that. This also kind of goes into warranties. So warranty is what you're promising that your product will do. And this kind of goes into liability, things like that. The warranty can either be express or implied. Each state has its own implied rules. So unfortunately, you have to go to your own state and say, what are the implied warranties? Well, a lot of states look at express. What are you saying this should do? Should your book make them $1 million? Is that express? Now, you can waive all warranties, and a lot of people do waive warranties, especially in the online. But you have to be careful when you start going around and just waiving warranties, because if you're saying somebody can make $1 million and you don't deliver and there's nothing about it in your terms of use or contract or anything else, then guess what? They can sue you. Will they have a close case? And maybe not. But the whole point is you want to limit your exposure, because even if, oh, well, they probably won't win, attorney fees, court costs, and everything else, that costs a lot of money. Even if you win, you're looking at thousands of dollars to defend a suit. And in some instances, you can potentially get your money back. But it doesn't mean you're not going to be out a lot of money up front. And you're talking about years and years until something comes about. So next, I want to talk about actual physical products. A lot of us do have some physical products that they sell, whether it be their own inventions or things like that. So again, if you sell a physical product, you need a contract or terms of use or something in place. If you've ever gone to Amazon and you buy a product, they have that neat little thing that says, click here if you agree. And you have to scroll down, scroll down. That's their terms of use. So again, if you don't have one, you need to have one. And the reason is it limits your liability and it limits the issues on the front side instead of defending a suit and paying attorneys thousands of dollars, court clerks thousands of dollars, because it's a lot cheaper to have something up front than it is on the back end. So a couple things, again, that you'll need. You'll need a refund policy. Now, obviously, with a physical product, it's going to be a little bit different than the digital. A physical product, you want to really set the limitations of what can be returned. And if they do return it, what they will get. Now, if you have a physical product and everything was smooth sailing delivery and they got it and they beat your planner to heck and back. I mean, you need to spell that out. Like if you cause physical damage to the product, no returns. So those things need to be really spelled out. Because again, if you say, okay, well, I no refund policy, or refund within 10 days, and they get the product and they don't like it, or say they dropped it in their morning coffee, and you go, I'm not taking this back. What do I have to do with your coffee issues? Well, it doesn't say it in your contract. It doesn't say it in your terms of use. So that's something that you need to be wary of, because that could end up in court. Again, liability. And this is usually a lot bigger with products, because your liability is actually a physical product. What is that physical product? What could happen with it? So you want to try to limit any exposure. Now, obviously, sometimes things go haywire and things like that. But so you want to make sure every contract or every terms of use has, you're using this at your own risk, things like that. Now, warranties are a bigger issue with physical products, obviously depending on what your state says. But any product sold for over $15 has to have express warranties. And that is an FTC rule. And I'm going to add this to that right there. So y'all have that as well. And essentially, there are some implied warranties that come, again, with each state. And basically, these implied warranties are your product is supposed to do what your product says it's going to do. Like if you have a toaster, I saw this example, if you have a toaster that doesn't toast, well, that goes against these warranties. That goes against what the product is for. If you have a, can't even think of a product, and I'm saying, if you have HP ink that has no ink, that goes against the warranties. Now, one of the big implied warranties is the warranty of merchantability. That, like I said, it's the seller promises that a product will do what it's supposed to do. And the FTC actually said, toaster will toast. So make sure that your product does what it's supposed to do. Now, with expressed warranties, you need to be careful about what you're saying that this will do, what it won't do. Warranty last. Sometimes if you have a car and you say, okay, well, you get oil changes for a year, and they go, okay, you get oil changes, great. But in that little fine print that says, your oil change will last for a year, but only once a month. You drove a lot that month, but it's right there in black and white. Now that goes back to you, and you're like, oh, I guess I didn't read the fine print. But stepping back as the business owner, you want to make sure that you have that fine print in, and you really define what these warranties need to be. So if you have a physical product that you say, if this breaks, I will repair it in 3 days or whatever it may be, those warranties really need to be expressed. Because those warranties are what can get you in trouble if they're not. Because like if you go back to the car example, you sold a car, you said, I'll give you free oil changes for a year. And that's it. That's all you said, free oil changes for a year. And you didn't actually express which car. You said this person buying it gets free oil changes for a year. Well, they come in with 3 different cars each week. It's kind of hard to say that let me express this. Sorry, sometimes like my brain works faster than my actual mouth. It's hard to say that, no, you can't do that when you're looking at the warranties and they're following the warranty. So as a business owner, you really need to make sure you define it, because if you don't, that could be a breach of contract, which ends you in court. So again, everything needs to be expressed and detailed. because the shorter, not necessarily the shorter the sentence, but well, you get free oil changes for a year. It doesn't say, okay, well, only once a month, or, that goes for back to your business. If you say, okay, shipping's included, well, okay, shipping's included. Should shipping be included to China? Maybe, maybe not. So you need to make sure you express that. All right, I want to go over one more thing before I open up the floor for questions and then answers. So what happens if you do get sued? Because that's an issue. What happens if somebody's like, well, I'm just going to go ahead and sue you? And you're like, I don't feel good about that. I don't really particularly want you to sue me. Well, sometimes you just get sued. So that brings me, sorry, I'm clicking. That brings me to what happens if you actually get sued. Number one, evidence is key. Anything written that you have, any emails, anything like that, you need to start collecting it then. You've already should have collected it, but that's a different webinar for a different day. You need to make sure you have all the evidence of any communications with that person. That includes your terms of use, your contract, emails, anything. Go ahead and start collecting it. Number two, go see an attorney. Now, it's been my realization that online people are very hesitant to talk to attorneys. And I understand it. Attorneys are used for the, oh shit, something just happened. But they do this day in, day out. So make sure you're not just brushing it to the side, hoping you can do this on your own. DIY lawsuits, not fun. Okay? So go to an attorney. Number three, once you've talked to an attorney, once you've got all your evidence collected, give that evidence over to your attorney. Make copies. Okay? Make copies. And then go ahead and take a deep breath. Because sometimes it's just inevitable, and sometimes you can defend it. And when you are looking for an attorney, don't just Google it and say, this attorney works great. Get recommendations, referrals, because honestly, not all attorneys are created equal. I'm saying that from personal experience of being an attorney. So I want to open the floor to people watching, some questions and answers. And then I want to talk for about 5 minutes about my new live contract workshop coming up. So go ahead and fire your questions at me. And again, I've added the link to the Facebook group. If you can't think of your questions or you're watching this on replay, you're more than welcome to go to the Facebook group, join, ask me some questions. You can always email me as well. That's brylet2017@gmail.com. All right, so for just a couple minutes, I want to talk about my new live contract workshop coming up. It is going to be fabulous. Contracts are my thing. I can literally make anything into a contract, even contracts, obviously. But what it's going to be, you get a template of a service contract. We're going to go in depth about some of the terms of contracts, how to really view a contract, looking at contracts. And then there's going to be about a 30-minute Q&A session where you can sit there and just ask your questions about your current contracts and stuff like that. So it's only $30 and there's only 4 spots available. First come, first serve. So if you have any questions about that, again, let me know. I'm going to add that link in here as well. I'm just all about some links today. And I hope y'all have a fantastic day. For my replay viewers, let me know what you thought, and y'all have a great day.